Yes. Namaste everyone. Welcome to Advaita Vedanta Satsang House. The ongoing sessions are on Bhagavad Gita from an Advaita perspective offered by Bindoji. We are on chapter 4, room number 2. The replays for all the other earlier chapters and the introductory lecture are all available as replays on YouTube, on Clubhouse, or you could go into Advaita Retold YouTube channel shared in the chat. The two alternative links are on Apple and Spotify. And there is also another book published by Artemisia called The Imaginary Door, which is available on Amazon, which are, again, from insights from an Advaita perspective offered by Bindoji earlier in the discussions. So you can access all these as well-cataloged sessions in the YouTube channel, YouTube Advaita Retold. I'll be closing the chat and hand raising when Bindoji is conducting the class, after which we'll open up those channels for any questions or clarifications. As always, thank you, Bindoji. Over to you.
Thank you, Prakash. Namaste and welcome to all of you. Let me do my invocation. Om Namo Brahmadibhyo Brahma Vidya Sampradaya Kartrubhyo Vamsharishibhyo Mahatbhyo Namo Gurubhyaha Shruti Smriti Purana Malayam Karunalayam Namami Bhagavad Padam Shankaram Loga Shankaram Shankaram Shankaracharyam Keshavam Badarayanam Sutra Bhashikritau Vande Bhagavantau Punah Punaha Ishvaro Guru Ratmeti Murti Veda Vibhagine Vyomavad Vyapta Dehaya Dakshinamurtaye Namaha Om Shri Gurubhyo Namaha. The Gita Dhyana Slokam Yam Brahma Varunendra Rudra Marutaha Stunvandi Divyaistavai Vedai Sangapadakamo Panishadai Gayanti Yam Samagaha Dhyanavastita Tatkatena Manasa Pasyanti Yam Yogino Yasyandam na Vidussura Suragana Devaya Tasmai Namaha Devaya Tasmai Namaha Devaya Tasmai Namaha. Om. Fourth chapter, Karma Yoga Sannyasa, is the name given to it. In the first two verses, we have been listening to Krishna's words. And in the last class, he said that the yoga of self-knowledge was once given to Vivaswami, and through the Parampara, king of sages, through a living tradition, it was transmitted. But what happens is when that lineage broke or became weak due to undisciplined people or uneligible people became the people who are to transmit this knowledge. And when they dominated, the teaching disappeared from the tradition. And the world lost its connection to the true aims of human life. Therefore, the adharma and other things flourish in the society. Now he will tell what is the role with which he has come to this world. We will go to the verse number 3. Durbalan Jitendriyan Prapya Nashtam Yogam Imam Upalabhya Lokam Cha Apurushartha Sambandhinam. Because of this decay in that Durbala and Jitendriya, those who are attached to the sensual pleasures. Therefore, Nashtam Yogam Imam. This yoga was lost in the tradition. So Krishna says, Sa eva ayam maya te adya yogaha proktaha puradana. Bhaktosi me sakhacha iti rahasyam hi tad uttamam. Saha means that, referring to the primordial teaching, what he addressed and gave it to Vivaswan in the beginning of creation. Eva, it is the very teaching. Ayam means now. Maya, te, by me to you. Adya means today or now. Ayam means this yoga, which was there, is same, which is this now, is being taught to you today. Yoga proktaha means the yoga is being taught to you. Puratanaha, which is ancient, primordial, doesn't mean that I am going to teach you something new and created new. It is the same thing which I am going to teach you now also. Bhaktaha asi me sakha. You are devoted or you are taken refuge in Shishyasteham Shatimam Prapannam. He said that I am your disciple. Please save me, was the request with which Arjuna threw the bows and arrows into the floor and sat down. So that is what is referred here, Bhaktaha, means by one who has taken refuge in me. Sakha me, you are also a friend to me. So as a friend and as a person who has refuge into me, you are now the eligible person to carry forward this. Therefore, rahasyam hi etat uttama. Rahasyam means, actually speaking, secret or esoteric. It can also mean solitude or concealment. So here it is esoteric in the meaning. Ekanta. He is the casual participle to indicate indeed or for or because. Etat uttamam. This is the highest. Uttamam means highest or supreme yoga, which is what I am going to teach you. So, Saeva ayam yogaha puratanaha maya te adya proktaha. That very primordial yoga which I gave it to the Vivaswan, the sun god, that yoga, that has been declared by me to you today. That is what I am going to teach you today. Prokta. Proktaha yasmad bhakta asi me sakacha. Hi etat rahasyam uttamam asti. Because you are my devotee and friend, for this very reason, this supreme yoga is being taught to you. So, in the 4.1, Krishna said the cosmic origin, Aham Proktavan, to Vivaswan, etc. In the 4.2, he mentioned about the loss of it during the transmission, Kalena Nashtaha. And for the restoration of it now, Maya te adya proktaha. I am going to teach you the same so that the teaching is restored in the society again. Bhaktosi Sakha Cheti opens an entirely new philosophical register, that the Adhikari Vichara or the inquiry of a qualified recipient. Because he said in the previous verse that it was lost in between, which showed that there were recipients who were not qualified and they did not do a justice to the transfer of teaching properly. Therefore, why is this teaching to be given to this person now, or Arjuna? That is the answer Krishna gives is Bhakti and Sakhya. These are precise statements about the inner qualification, Antasadhana Sampatti, required for Brahma Vidya. Bhakti and Sakhya. That it may look not the sadhana chatushtaya, but these two words are representation of the sadhana chatushtaya. The philosophical weight of this pada rests entirely on the conjunction that Saha and Ayam. That ancient teaching, Ayam means this present one which is being taught to you, is Eva are identical. This is not a new yoga that I am going to teach you. This is the very same yoga which I taught from the time of creation, now being redisclosed to you. Therefore, three markers for the time. Saha means the past, Ayam means the present, and Adya means today. Compresses the cosmic time into single present moment of transmission. All the three being the same. Shankaracharya says that the three usages of these words by Krishna, he has compressed from the primordial teaching to today's teaching, identifying it as being the same, and the reason explains in his commentary will come. So Shankaracharya seizes on these three, Sa Eva Ayam, as a Mahavakya, like construction, like Tattvamasi. Just as Tattvamasi declares the identity of Tat at Brahman, and Tvam, the Jiva, Asi, means now, or it is one and the same. Same way, that primordial Avyaya Yoga is Ayam means the yoga being spoken now are identical. The teaching has not changed. The Atman content of the yoga is eternally the same. That is why it is called Puratana. Even though it is old, it is ever new. And now Krishna as an eternal source, Nitya Guru, re-establishes it directly. The word Adya means today is profoundly significant. The present moment of the genuine teaching is always the moment of the first teaching. That means whenever we hear this yoga, Adhyaya Yoga, we are in the same moment when the Ishvara taught this in the beginning of creation. There is no temporal distance between Krishna speaking to Vivaswan, the sun god, and Krishna speaking to Arjuna. Because the speaker is the same, Nitya Chaitanya. And then there are the pairing of the words Adya and Puratana. Adya means now, Puratana means primordial. A direct pointer to the timeless nature of Atma knowledge. Brahma Vidya is Puratana. It is not something newly generated or innovated by Krishna. It is the recognition of what has already been. Nitya Siddha. This is the Advaitic principle. Moksha is not produced. Means not Utpadya by a teaching. It is revealed. Vivarta. The yoga is a primordial because Atman it points to is primordial in it. Anadi Nitya Avyaya. Shankaracharya here anticipates the Vivartavada structure. The apparent loss and the redisclosure of the yoga itself is Vyavaharika superimposition. And at the Paramarthika level, this teaching is Sada Proktaha. It is always being declared by eternal Guru Shishya Parampara. And who is the Pratyekatma in operation. That Bhakta and Sakha, the two words, not as emotional and devotional categories of Vaishnava Bhakti, but precise indicators of inner qualification, Adhikari Lakshana. Bhaktaha is from Bhaja Sevaya, is the root. Means to be devoted, to have one's being directed towards. So, the Shraddha Sampanna, one who is endowed with deep devotion, or Shraddha, not mere faith, but an epistemological receptivity that allows the teaching to be heard correctly. The Bhakta is the one whose Antakarana has been sufficiently purified by prior Karma Yoga that it can receive the subtle Atma Vichara without distortion. Shankaracharya explicitly distances this from the emotional attachment of Bhakti. Reading Bhakti here as directedness of the intellect toward the Atma teaching. The form of mumukshutva expressed in its most intimate mode. Therefore, the bhakta word used by Krishna is to show the mumukshutva in the student, Arjuna, when he says, Shishyasteham Shadimam Prapannam in the beginning of the Bhagavad Gita. But Arjuna has been always a friend to Krishna also. So, Sakhitva, as indicated, is absence of teacher-student hierarchy. Where there is a student will have an awe to the teacher, that can itself become an obstacle to the transmission. But when the teacher and the student becomes friends, the friend hears without paralyzing reverence by the reverence that prevents the genuine reflection, manana. Arjuna can question, probe, resist as a friend does, and thereby engage teaching dialectically rather than merely receive it passively. This is the ideal Shishya disposition. Because in later verse, Krishna says, Shraddhavan labate jnanam. Knowledge can be received only by one who has Shraddha. That is, Shraddhavan is enough to receive that. Bhakta is intimate enough to question, is Sakha. So together, Shankaracharya reads Bhaktosi me Sakhacha as a shortened for Sadhana Chatushtaya, Viveka Vairagya, Satsampatti and Mumukshutva. Arjuna, having been brought by the crisis which was explained in verses from the first chapter and second chapter beginning, to the threshold of genuine jitnyasa, now embodies these qualifications sufficiently for the rahasyam to be transmitted, the teaching to be, esoterical teaching to be transmitted. Now, when the word rahasyam comes, normally there is a lot of preconceived notion among those who are from the Indian background. The word rahasyam is usually used for a secret. But it has different meaning also. Ekantata, to be alone. Vivaktata, separate, etc. So solitude or in a hidden place, secret, all these meanings are applicable to the word rahas. Now when it is rahasyam with the with the suffix, it becomes that which belongs to the realm of the hidden. Means a technical Vedantic term for teaching not given indiscriminately to anyone and everyone. Because in the Brihadaranyaka Upanishad 6th chapter, it says, Na idam adikshitya vachyam. This should not be taught to not, indiscriminate. This should not be taught indiscriminately. Rahasyam and Uttamam are the two predicate adjectives referring to this yoga. The teaching is given because it is supreme secret, not in the form of that it should not be heard by anybody else. No. It is secret, only for the qualified is applicable. It is very rahasyatva, that means the character of esotericness, means it can be only given to one qualified person at a time or to the one who is approaching with that. Tad vijnanartam sa gurumeva bigacche shrotriyam brahmanishtam, which we studied in the Mundaka Upanishad. Therefore, the logic is Bhaktosi Sakacha is for the supreme secret teaching is eligible for Arjuna. Shankaracharya notes that the Brahma Vidya is called Rahasya not because it is arbitrarily withheld, but because it is structurally inaccessible to the unqualified. The Rahasyam is not a secret in the vulgar sense of hidden information. It is the secret in the sense that it can be only received when the receiving instrument, Antakarana, is sufficiently refined. To give it indiscriminately would not reveal it. It would merely produce another layer of confusion and superimposition to the mind of the unpurified. For the qualifier, Uttamam, who is highest and supreme, functions technically among all, that means all the Upanishads are replete with the guarded secrets. That is why this is Uttama. The knowledge of the Avyaya Atman, that alone is Moksha Sadhana. Shankaracharya here invokes the Katha Upanishad, Nayam Atma Pravachanena Labhyaha. This self is not obtained by teaching alone. Namethaya Bahunas. All those things which we saw that in the Katha Upanishad. Meaning that the teaching reaches its mark only when the Bhakti and Sakhya are present. The Uttamatva, or the supremost nature of it, of this secret, is precisely that is the direct pointing to Pratyagatma. It is not a ritual prescription, not a cosmological theory, but a self-disclosure of the self to the self. This is what I told in the last class. It is the self addressing the self, and that can be addressed in that way only the teaching can be transmitted. The light of the knowledge, that light is the light which is transferred from one lamp to another lamp, like that. Now this is referred in 3 separate verses in Gita itself. Idam te guhyatamam prakshavan anusuyave jnanam vijnana sahitam yatnyatva mokshe se ashubhat. It is 9.1, where Krishna says, however, to you who are not given the cavilling or calling the bad names, etc., I shall speak to the highest secret itself, which is knowledge. Jnana may mean Brahman as the consciousness, or its knowledge gathered from the Upanishads, Paroksha Jnana. And Vijnana is the direct experience of Aparoksha Jnana. Combined with these two, with the experience, by realizing which you shall be free from evil. Moksha se ashubhat. You will be freed from the evil. In the 15th chapter, 20th verse, Iti guhyatamam shastram idamuktam mayanaka. Edad buddhva buddhimam syat. Kritakrityasya bharata. O sinless one, ma akha anakha, Arjuna, this most secret scripture has thus been uttered by me. Understanding this, one becomes wise and has his duties fulfilled. O leader of the Bharata dynasty, Bharata. And in the final chapter, concluding chapter, Krishna says very clearly, Idam te na atapaskaya na abhaktaya kadachana na cha ashrushave vachyam na cha mam yo abhyasuyati. This that I have taught after completing the 18th chapter, 67th verse, he is saying that you should not ever be taught to one who is devoid of austerities and to the one who is not a devotee. Also, neither to the one who does not render service, nor as well to the one who make petty or unnecessary objections at me. So we can see that Krishna is reminding at regular intervals that this is a Guhyatam Shastra. This is a very esoteric, difficult to understand. So don't be generous in going on singing like a song and everyone they sing. That is what is happening now. Everybody is teaching Gita or everybody is talking about Gita, not realizing the import what Krishna has got in mind. He says this in the 4th chapter, he says this in the 9th chapter, he says it in the 15th chapter, and just before closing the 18th chapter, on the 67th verse, he repeats this again, which shows that Bhagavad Gita has a very, difficult subject to understand. It is not meant for everyone, and therefore, it has to be addressed only those who are regular and interested in learning and those who are attentive with bhakti and friendship to the teacher who is explaining this, so that the faithfulness or the bhakti or devotion is not a devotion which is in the technical sense which is used in today's world as devotion to the God or devotion to your nation, devotion to your wife or devotion to your family, not that type of a devotion. Here it is the mumukshutva which is being talked about. The need for learning this knowledge, that is the bhakti you are showing, or that is the devotion or the shraddha you are showing. And the approach should be mutually having freedom to ask and clarify. If you do not come up and ask questions and clarify your doubts, you are withholding your doubts within yourself. You need to clarify this, otherwise this knowledge will not fructify in your mind. The result of the knowledge should be freeing you from the samsara or from the mundane life where anxiety, fear, etc. is our day-to-day companions. We have to be abhayam praptosi. What Yajnavalkya told Janaka. You have reached or you have attained the epitome of fearlessness. The epitome of fearlessness can come only when there is no second one. Dutiyadvai bhayam bhavati. From the second, we can be always afraid of something. Therefore, these two are the important aspects This is a very short verse as it is, but encapsulates the three of Shankaracharya's most characteristic concerns. One is Saha and I am, the identity, the timeless teaching. Shankaracharya says this is to assert the Atma knowledge has no history. The apparent gap between the primordial teaching and the present one is itself a Vyavaharika appearance. It is not real. The Nitya Guru, Atman, in every being is the Atman itself, expressed through Vivarta appearance of Krishna's form as a person now, who always speaks the same truth. He has spoken this truth at the beginning of the creation. He is speaking it now. This prefigures the great non-dual teaching of what is going to come in the next verse. Yat nyatva na punar moham ivam yasyasi. Once this is known, delusion never recurs. Because what is known is the timeless and self-luminous Pratyagatma, Swarupa. Then there is a second aspect of Adhikara and Antakarana Shuddhi, which is contained in the word Bhakta and Saka as Adhikara statement rather than devotional sentiment. Distinguishing his Advaitic exegesis from the later Bhakti commentators like Ramanuja or Madhva. For Shankara, the qualification of Brahma Vidya is the entirely epistemic and psychological. It is the state of the Antakarana, not the emotional intensity of devotion. Bhakti here is Shraddha plus Mumukshutva. Sakya is the non-obstructive intimacy that allows genuine manana and nididhyasana. Together they constitute the field which is ripe enough into which the seed of Atmajnana can fall and germinate into moksha. And the third one is the Rahasyam and Uttamam, esoterical structure of Brahma Vidya. For Shankaracharya, Uttamam Rahasyam points directly to the Upanishadic Rahasya tradition. Brihadaranyaka's Rahasyam passages, the Chandogya's Guhyatam Paramam, and crucially in Kada's insistence that Atman reveals itself only to the one it chooses. Yam eva isa brunute tena labhyaha. Krishna's choice of Arjuna is not arbitrary affection. It is Atman's own self-recognition in a qualified Shishya who has jitnyasa or eagerness to know. The Rahasyam is ultimately the secret that is, there is no second, Neha Nanasti Kinjana. It's in the Brihadaranya Upanishad. And this non-dual secret, Advaita Rahasya, is what is Uttama. Because it is termination of all seeking in the recognition of the ever already attained Atman. The commentary of this verse is very simple. There is only 2 lines by Shankaracharya. Sa eva ayam maya te tubhyam adya idani yogaha proktaha puradana. That very same mentioned yoga has today been taught to you by me. Bhakta asis me sakhacha asiti. You are my devotee and also my friend. Rahasyam hi yasmat etat uttamam yogaha jnanam ityartaha. For this yoga is indeed the highest secret. That is to say, it is the highest knowledge. The short remark revealed that the 3 essential conditions for receiving the self-knowledge has been achieved. The yoga is ancient but eternally new. Puratana yoga means ancient yoga. Why is it ancient? Because the self-knowledge is not invented. It is sanatana. Even to when it was instructed to the first light, the sun god, what is instructed is not something new which is being instructed, which is the nature of the self, of Brahman, is what is being taught to the sun god as yourself. So Tattvamasi is what has been taught by them. That is exactly what is why it is Sanatana. The truth of the self existed before Vedas, after Vedas, and it will exist beyond time. Thus every teaching of Advaita is actually a rediscovery of the eternal truth. Every time we are learning, we are not inventing something new. We are reinventing what is already what we are. Why Arjuna was chosen? Shankaracharya says because of these two qualifications of Bhakta and Saka. Bhakta means devotion, devotee. Devotion here means reverence for the teacher, openness to instruction, and trust in the teaching. Without this, the mind remains argumentative. And Saka, friendship, implies intimacy, honesty, and absence of fear to ask questions. Thus, Arjuna relates to Krishna as both as a devotee and as a friend. With reverence to Krishna for his knowledge, that is why he could say that, I am your Shishya, please save me, Shishyasteham Shadimam Prabandam. And he has the openness. That is why he is asking every chapter, he asks one question. The next verse is a question from Arjuna. Both are necessary for true learning. So unless you ask and clarify your questions, doubts, the learning will not become fruitful. But why is this yoga called a secret? Rahasyam. It is secret not because someone hides it, or not it is something which cannot be located. It is something which is everywhere, yet it is secret. Anoroniniyan mato mahato mahiyan. It is there in every atom. So how can it be a secret? Only because few are capable of understanding it. The secret is simply the knowledge of the self. Why knowledge is supreme secret? Because the teaching says nothing astonishing. You are not the individual self, you are Brahman itself. This is what is being taught. If it is heard properly, it overturns the ordinary experiences. The moment it overturns the ordinary experience, the aha moment comes. What appears as hidden was already there. Oh, this is what is who I am. That question will become, till then it appeared to be a secret. You are not knowing who you are. But when it is being taught, you know who you are. You have been already knowing it. Even when you are not knowing it, you are knowing it. The yoga itself is the knowledge. Shankaracharya clarifies. Yogaha jnanam ityartaha. Yogaha here means knowledge. Because yoga in the Gita is often misunderstood as meditation, action, discipline. But for Shankaracharya, this is the ultimate yoga. The union through knowledge of the identity of Brahman. Therefore, the philosophical significance of this verse is the shortest passage explains how spiritual knowledge is transmitted. Truth requires relationship. The self-knowledge cannot arise merely by reading scriptures. It requires a living relationship between the teacher and the student. Arjuna's relationship with Krishna makes its teaching possible. Devotion purifies the intellect. Devotion removes arrogance, doubt and resistance. Then the knowledge can arise naturally. Friendship removes the fear. The spiritual inquiry requires vulnerability. The student must be able to say, I do not understand. Please explain to me in detail. Friendship allows this honesty. And the real secret of Gita, Shankaracharya revealed in the hidden message. The secret is not a ritual, not a morality, not a mystical experience, not anything else. It is secret simply because it is about yourself, the knowledge of that you are the self, not what you think you are. Why is the self-knowledge so secret? Because the mind constantly identifies that we are the body, mind, intellect, mind experiences. When the Gita teaching reveals, you are none of this, you are that witness consciousness. That is the recognition of the Rahasya. The summary is that, in essence, the same ancient yoga of self-knowledge once transmitted through the royal lineage of Rajarshis is now being taught by Krishna to Arjuna. Because Arjuna possesses the rare qualifications of devotion and intimacy with Krishna. And this yoga is the highest since it reveals the knowledge of the self. The next verse is slightly philosophically fascinating. Because Arjuna questions now how Krishna could have taught the sun god at the beginning of creation, which leads Shankaracharya to explain in his commentary the doctrine of divine incarnation, avatara, from the Advaitic standpoint. Bhagavata vipradishiddham uktam iti ma bhoot kasyachit buddhihi iti pariharartham cha chodyam iva kurvan Arjuna uvacha is Arjuna's introductory remark. Let no one have the idea that the Blessed Lord has spoken something contradictory. Therefore, in order to remove the doubt, such a doubt, Arjuna speaks as if raising an objection. The problem that arises, Krishna just said in that, I taught this yoga to the sun god in the beginning of the creation. But Arjuna knows something obvious. That is what Krishna is born recently, whereas the sun god is a primordial in time. Thus, contradiction seems to be there. Thus, question arises, how could Krishna have taught the sun god? This viparita sheda, that is apparent contradiction, that is Arjuna's sequential question in pedagogical means. Arjuna asks not because he doubts Krishna, he asks to remove the possible confusion, including us. We can also ask the same question. Chodyam iva, as if raising an objection. Shankaracharya stresses that there is no contradiction. Advaita assumes scripture cannot be self-contradictory. Thus, when a contradiction appears, it must be resolved through interpretation. The method is identify the apparent conflict, raise a doubt, provide the solution. This is the classic Advaitic dialectic. What the coming verse will explain, Arjuna's question leads to Krishna's famous reply. Bahuni me vyatitani janmani. Many births of mine have passed. Shankaracharya will explain that the Lord's birth is not like ordinary birth. It is an avatara. It is Mayopatika Kalpita avatara. That is appearance through Maya. This small remark contains three important principles of Vedanta. The first principle is that the scripture invites questioning. Arjuna is not condemned for questioning. Instead, his question becomes the gateway for deeper teaching. Thus, Vedanta encourages intelligent inquiry. Number two, doubt is part of the teaching method. Shankaracharya frequently has formatted his Bhashya in this manner, structuring argument like this: Purva Paksha Siddhanta. Purva Paksha is the objection or the one who objects it. Siddhanta is the one who puts up or the resolution or the from the point of Advaita. Therefore, here Arjuna plays the role of a Purva Pakshi or as an objection based. Then the next one, third, Gita anticipates philosophical difficulty. The text itself anticipates the reader's confusion. So Arjuna becomes the voice of the reader. A subtle Advaitic insight. The deeper reason for this discussion is the nature of Ishvara. From the highest standpoint, Brahman has no birth, no action, no change. Yet Gita speaks of Krishna acting in the world. Thus, Brahman at the absolute level is unborn. At the empirical level, Ishvara appears to be avatara, taking birth again and again. Shankaracharya will resolve this through the Maya, which Krishna himself introduces in the verse. It is not Shankaracharya has introduced Maya. Maya is the word used by Krishna in the Bhagavad Gita. The dramatic function in the Gita, the moment also serves a narrative role. Arjuna's question allows Krishna to explain the nature of divine incarnation, the cyclic appearance of dharma, the restoration of spiritual knowledge. These ideas appears in the 4.7 and 4.8. In 4.7, Krishna will say, Yada yada hi dharmasya glanir bhavati bharata apyutthanam adharmasya tadatmanam srijami aham paritranaya sadhunam vinashaya cha dushkritam dharma samsthapanarthaya sambhavami yuge yuge. These two verses are coming, 4.7 and 4.8. So Arjuna's question is what? Aparam bhavato janma param janma vivasvata katamedad vijaniyam tvam proktavaniti. Aparam bhavatah janma. Your birth. Bhavatah janma. Your birth. Aparam means most recent or posterior, later. Vivasvataha janma param. The birth of Vivaswan, the sun god, is earlier or anterior. Katam etat vijaniyam. How should I understand this? Tvam ado proktavanidi. You in the beginning, at the outset, have taught this to the sun god. Like this, how can I think that? The whole verse spoken by Arjuna in this chapter and is among the most philosophically pregnant of his interjection across Gita. And this is the only statement he makes in the entire fourth chapter. After the three statements of Krishna, where Krishna has casually asserted that he himself declared it to the sun god at the dawn of cosmic time, Arjuna's question is not skepticism or impudence. It is the necessary dialectical moment, Purva Paksha, without which Krishna's avatara declaration, which comes from 4.5 to 4.8, cannot arise. Therefore, Arjuna triggers a philosophical trigger for Krishna to answer that. And one of the most metaphysically rich passages. Therefore, Shankaracharya says Arjuna here plays the role of an ideal Purvapakshi, raising the precise objection that a sharp Tarkika, a logician, grounded in Vyavaharika perception would raise, thereby creating the occasion for the Siddhanti or the Advaitin or the one who states the resolution to be stated in full force. Aparam bhavato janma, your birth is earlier. So, here Krishna is considered as the son of Vasudeva and Devaki, a birth that Arjuna himself considers contemporary with him. So Shankaracharya notes that Arjuna's ground for these objections is entirely from Pratyaksha Pramana, from the direct perception, from the empirical point of view, which he sees Krishna as a contemporary born, grown charioteer beside him. From the standpoint of Laukika Pratyaksha, Krishna's birth is apara, mean recent, observable. This is precisely from a Vyavaharika standpoint that Avatara teaching, which comes from next verse to the 8th verse, will sublate Arjuna's invocation of Pratyaksha, epistemological Purvapaksha. It requires a Shastra Pramana of Krishna's self-disclosure. So his statement that Adikala, the primordial time when he cosmic inauguration, his birth, or is the time when he taught this to Vivaswan. Arjuna's point is precise. The temporal gap between, the time gap between Vivaswa's cosmic antiquity and Krishna's historical present is an unbridgeable, extraordinary causal continuity. No ordinary being in the historical time could have spoken to a cosmic deity at the beginning of time. That was Arjuna's objection. This objection is logically clean and from a Vyavaharika standpoint irrefutable, which is why it demands a Paramarthika resolution. So the question which Arjuna is, Katham Vijaniyam, how can I know it, as an expression of genuine jitnyasa, no doubt born out of disrespect over Krishna, but a philosophical perplexity that demands resolution, and that too only from the Shastra's point of view it can be resolved. Arjuna does not say, Na janami, I do not know, a flat denial. But Katham Vijaniyam, how can I know, or by what means can I know it, is demanding a pramana. How can I know this? Please tell me what is the proof, with logic and reasoning. This is an epistemologically sophisticated question of the one who understands the Pratyaksha alone is insufficient and implicitly requesting the Shastra Pramana of Krishna. Because he does the self-disclosure that I taught this to Vivaswan and is the same one which I am teaching you now. This is Arjuna's functioning as the ideal Vedantic Purvapakshi, recognizing the limits of the sense perception and opening question into a higher pramana. So Shankaracharya's commentary says the juxtaposition of Tvam, you, the historically visible to recently born Krishna, with Adav in the beginning of the cosmic primordial time, is the precise locus of paradox that the Avatara teaching only can resolve it. Arjuna is not denying the possibility. He is exposing the apparent contradiction. Because he has a devotion, Shraddha in Krishna. So when Krishna says that I taught this to Vivaswan, and is the same one which I am teaching you now, he doesn't doubt Krishna's words. But there is a paradox in his statement. That how do I know that paradox is not, you have overlooked the paradox? That is the question which is there. So the empirical identity to Krishna, this Krishna of the Vasudeva born recently, with the claimed action of Ado Proktavan, having spoken in the cosmic beginning, are the contradiction that can only be resolved by sublation of the empirical identity. By Krishna revealing that Tvam who you spoke, Ado, is not the body bound by historical person, but the Nitya Avyaya Paramatman, who appears to take birth, Sambhavami Yuge Yuge, through the Maya while remaining eternally unborn. Ajo Apisan. Arjuna's question thus not a Purvapaksha, and Shankara shows that it is philosophically necessary, not merely narratively convenient. So this verse will be one single sentence. Bhavataha janmam aparam asti. Vivaswataha janmam param asti. Katam etad vijaniyam yat tvam ado proktavan iti. Means, your birth is recent. The birth of Vivaswan is ancient. How then am I to understand this claim of yours that you declared this yoga in the beginning? So the premises one is that your birth is recent. Premises two is that Vivaswan birth was at the beginning of creation or beginning of time, before yours of Krishna's. The implicit inference is therefore you could not have spoken to Vivaswat at the beginning of time, because you are not there. So the question is then, how is your claim that you have taught to Vivaswan to be understood? The Purvapasha as an epistemological necessity is what Shankaracharya always believed in it. And his Bhashya or all commentaries are woven by question by the objectioner and the answer by him. He takes it to such an extent that answer creates further question. And the question will be into such a way that the questioner himself unknowingly will start referring and telling the resolution, where Shankaracharya will say that now you are yourself is referring to the resolution. That means you have understood that process in which we are. That is a method of teaching by Shankaracharya. By making us to listen the question in such a way that the question itself will start divulging the resolution. That is why Shankaracharya's Purvapaksha Siddhanta method is there. So, the Bhashya is 2, 3, 4 sentences. Aparam arvak Vasudeva grihe babataha janma. Your birth recent in the house of Vasudeva. Param purva sargato janma utpatti vivasvataha adityasya. But the birth of Vivaswan, the origin, the sun god, was long ago at the beginning of creation. Tat katam etad vijaniyam aviruddhartataya. How am I able to understand this without contradiction? Satvam eva ado proktavan imam yogam sa eva idanim mahyam proktavan asi iti. That you yourself taught this yoga in the beginning, and now that the very same you are now teaching it to me. This completes Arjuna's question in Gita, chapter 4, only question. Ya Vasudeve Anishware Asarvatnya Ashanga Murkhana. the doubt entertained by ignorant that Vasudeva is not the Lord and not omniscient, etc., is by the dull-headed people. Tam pariharan Sri Bhagavan vacha. To removing that doubt, Krishna says, Yadartha hi Arjunasya pratnya. That indeed was the purpose of Arjuna's question. So hidden in the doubt is that Krishna is not omniscient and he is not the Lord. So this is the suspicion, Anishwara Asarvatnya Ashanga. But that he raises the question to remove others' doubt is what Shankaracharya says. Teaching for future listeners. How can the eternal Brahman appear in time? The next verse begins the explanation, which we will do it in the next class, that is tomorrow's class. Om Purnamada Purnamidam Purnat Purnamudachyate Purnasya Purnamadaya Purnameva Vasishyate. Om Shanti 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 Harihi Om Shri Gurubhyo Namaha Harihi Om. Thank you. Dhanyavada.
Thank you very much, Bindoji. I'm opening the chat and hand raising. We have about 20 minutes for a Q&A. If you have any clarifications or questions, you can put it in the chat or you can come up and ask. And I see some new members in the audience. So there are links shared in the chat where you can catch up on replays, either in Clubhouse or you can go to the YouTube. It's called Advaita Retold channel, where you can access all the previous talks leading to this 4th chapter. And there's also a repository of other lectures from the Upanishads and Aparokshanubhuti available on those channels.
Okay. Then we can meet tomorrow then.
Sure, Bindoji. Thanks everyone for coming.
Okay.
So we'll meet again tomorrow at 8:30 p.m. IST, where we will continue with the chapter 4. As always, heartfelt thanks to Bindoji and everyone for coming and regularly attending these sessions. Over to you, Bindoji.
Thank you, Prakash. Thank you all of you for being there and listening to this. We will continue the 4th chapter, actual teaching by Krishna, from tomorrow onwards, where lot of technical questions will be answered and we will know more about the yoga. Thank you. See you all. Hari Om. Good night.
Good. See you.